In this chapter, we talk about the rules of origin. As I already told you, we have in most of the schedules and the custom schedules, we have always a general tariff, and sometimes it's free if it comes from some countries, and sometimes we have some import restriction. So if it comes from some countries, you cannot import it at all, or you need a special import permission. So the rules of origin is very important, and we will talk now about the rules, how we define and how we make sure that we have the right origin. So the definitions and purposes of rules of origins are that the US Customs and Border Protection, that they have different types of rules of origin. The general rule overall is that the country of origin is always if an item is wholly grown, produced and manufactured in one country. If these three things come together, grown, produced and manufactured, so then you can say for sure this is the country of its origin, right? But we have some other rules of origin, and we differentiate the non-preferential rules. So there are no customs duty reduction, and we have later some preferential rules. For example, in America, we make always a substantial transformation test. That means we make a test to find out what is the origin. So the test, like as you see now in the Ferrostyle case versus the United States, because here Japanese steel was shipped to New Zealand, and there was it galvanized, and it was in this when it's galvanized, the court said it was substantially transformed to a New Zealand product. So this is what we talked about. So it's manufactured then in New Zealand, and it's not subject to voluntary restraints between US and Japan, right? So we have between US and Japan, most in former days, we had some import restrictions, and maybe because of this, so you could not ship steel from Japan to the United States without having really high tariffs on it. So that's maybe why they shifted to New Zealand and then from New Zealand to the United States. But the thing is, what is going on, and if there's a galvanizing and if galvanizing is changing the character really of the good, this is the thing, and they go really into deep. You can read this in this case. So these were non-preferential rules, but sometimes we have preferential rules of origins. That means it depends on the origin, and if you have a special origin, then the tariff shifts sometimes. But the tariff shift, that means the tariff is then different one than before. So if you, for example, if you mix some goods together, the tariff shift rule says that the last country where all inputs into the finished article underwent a required change then in tariff classification. Okay, so the last country is always the most important one. And sometimes we have a regional value content. That means that a minimum of X% of value of materials or processing must be performed in origin country. So they say it's not the steel of Japan anymore if 50% of the steel is different now if you galvanized it in New Zealand. All these tariffs have their origins in WTO agreements. So the WTO and all the member states, they have all these rules harmonized, and you can find it also on OPAL. So we have here the WTO agreement on rules of origin, and it says exactly how you have to define the rules. And we have also here a German version. Let's try again. So this is the English document. Okay, a little bit problem to find it. I don't know why I can't find it, because normally it's exactly what I wrote down here. Oh yes, I can see there's something missing here. Okay, so these are the agreements on rules of origin. And you have here a summary of the agreement. And in these agreements on 1986, so they agreed, ministers agreed that the Uruguay round on multilateral trade negotiations shall aim to bring about further liberalization, okay, and expansion of world trade. And so they said they want to harmonize the rules of origins. So rules of origin in each country or in the EU shall be defined as those laws, regulations, and administrative determinations of general application applied by any member to determine the country of origins of goods, provided such rules of origin are not related to contractual or autonomous trade regime leading to the granting of tariff preferences going beyond the application of the paragraph 1 of GATT 1994. So they want here that really all the origins, the rules of origins, that they all have the same, right? You can see it here again. Was it article number 1? Let me just check again. Rules of origin, yeah. Okay, so you please read it again, read it on your own then later, find out that we have here some WTO agreements who are valid for all WTO members. And in these rules, it's very important, of course, that you label your imports and that you mark them where they are from, right? So that's why we have some customs marking rules. And they have to indicate the name of country of origin to ultimate purchaser. Of course, sometimes we don't need the exact name. Sometimes it is enough that you say it comes from the EU, right? Because in the in the EU, we have since 2016 Union custom rules. I also uploaded them on OPAL. And you can label it as made in USA. This means that all or virtually all of the materials, processing or component parts are made in the US, and that their final assembly or processing took place there, right? You can only only negligible foreign content or virtual all is a very high standard. So this is yeah. So we have always to make sure that if you say it's made in US, that the most of the components are really from the US. Okay, in the next chapter we will talk about some custom laws who are affecting deeply US imports. Thank you for your attention and see you in the next video.